feeling well. I remember that distinctly. He went up there and I got my Navy commission and he went home. And that was like a 4-hour ride. He didn't even wait for the graduation ceremony. He just went home. And that was just a tough old guy is what he was. He got what he wanted and that was it. And, but then I went in and my first tour of duty was I was on a refrigerator ship, the Allsteed AF-48, I remember it. And it was located in, headquartered in, homeported in Norfolk, Virginia. And then we would go out to the fleet in the Mediterranean and we would give them fresh vegetables or whatever they wanted. We'd go over there, go around Europe and pick stuff up and then take it out to the fleet, to the aircraft carriers and stuff like that. Well, I became the navigator eventually on that ship. And that was a pretty big job for a young guy. And so then I decided when I was good, it was a 2-year tour. I decided I was going to stay in. And I went then to go to sub school is what I thought about. And I applied for sub school. And I had to go, I remember the first interview I had was an hour and a half with a psychiatrist. I thought, why do I have to have a psychiatrist here for this? Well, the reason they do is because if you think about a submarine, they're pretty packed. And you've got guys, you go down there for months at a time or weeks at a time, whatever it is. You can't have a bunch of type A guys down there that are going to kill each other. So they got to sort you out that you can get along with everybody. And that was a sort of a enlightening experience. Anyhow, I got accepted to sub school, and they said we got like a 8-month backup now. And so then I had to just go somewhere for 8 months because I was getting off the ship. And so they said, we got a good place for you over in Germany. So Bremerhaven, Germany is where it was. And so I went over there. And I'm in the officers club and there's a group of teachers over there. There was one particularly good looking blonde I really liked. And she from University of Arizona, she was homecoming queen there. And that's where I met my wife right there. And we hung out for about a year there and then we got married over there and everything was good. But she taught me out of sub school, I'll tell you that. But once you get accepted to the submarine service, you're in it because I came out. I spent 4 years of active duty when I got out. And I applied to, I just went around to the reserve units here. And I was a submariner. I was already accepted then. So that's what I did, 4 years of that, just active reserve stuff with submarines. That was fun. So anyhow, but when you get done with everything, then you have to get to a situation where where do you want to ship your household goods? And we said, you want to ship them to Philadelphia or you want to ship them to Sunnyvale, where your wife's from? I said, let's try Sunnyvale. So that's how we did it. That's how I got out here. Everything worked pretty good from then on.
Back to your family, you have a daughter across the street.
Right across the street, yeah.
What does she do across the street?
She teaches 4th grade.
Isn't that amazing, right? Over in, what's the name of the school?
Blossom Hill.
Yeah. And your son, what does he do? And
he works for MGM Studios down in LA.
Oh, down in LA, huh?
Mhm.
Okay. And you said he went to Bellarmine High School here.
Yeah, he went to Bellarmine, yeah. And my daughter went to Pinewood High School up in Los Altos. And yeah, she just got Teacher of the Year. I know that
Oh.
last year. That was a big deal.
Yes,
And,
it is.
and she's got a PhD in cognitive psychology. And my son has a law degree from USC, and he's doing sales basically. He called me up once and he said, Dad, he said, I got this law degree. He said, I'd really like to be a lawyer sometime. I said, son, I said, listen, I said, everybody's a salesman. You're a good one. Just hang in there. It worked out because they just sold out to Amazon, and he did very well with that transaction. So.
I think it's interesting. Your daughter got her degree in psychology and she's a teacher.
Yep.
I guess that will help her a lot.
Yeah. And she's got a daughter too.
Oh, she does.
Yeah, and she just came out here the other day she goes to the University of Michigan, and she's in there to be a senior this year. She's taking environmental science, and she was just in Copenhagen taking a course she was there for like 5 or 6 weeks, whatever it was. With the last week she was in Iceland, looking at all the icebergs and everything you got and how they're melting away and everything like that. So yeah, that's very interesting.
And you told me that you have a girlfriend.
I do have one girlfriend, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, do you want to tell anything about that?
Sure, I can tell about that. A lot of people I think know her here.
She's nobody here.
Huh?
I said she
No,
doesn't.
not here, no. No, she lives over in Ringenau Hills. Her name's Edna Herman, and she's Norwegian. And I've known her for 50 years, I think. We started playing tennis. She used to play tennis with my wife over at Brookside. And then she got to, now she's playing pickleball and golf, trying golf at 81, starting golf. That's a challenge, boy.
And you said you see her quite often, like every night.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. You have dinner together.
We have dinner together either there or at Rinconada Country Club.
I think you should bring her over here to dinner some night, don't you think? And
we
could all check her out.
We'll do that, yeah. Once we relax a little bit, you can't do it.
I should have thought to have you bring her here today, for
Mm-hmm.
to learn about you, but I didn't think of it in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else we've missed? When did you how did you find out about the terraces and when did you come here?
Well, I came here first I did a little test run because I got a new knee about 5 or 6 years ago. And I spent some time 10 days up at skilled nursing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Over in skilled nursing, did you get that? What a way to check us out.
Yeah.
Okay, unless you think of something else, and if you do, you can bring it up later. Oh, question.
Yes, Marjorie. Yeah, Marjorie's husband was, I think, having some problems with dementia. My wife had Alzheimer's. And so we went to the support group. It was right across the street here. And that was very interesting because Edna was there too, because her husband had an automobile accident. He was a physician. And he had an automobile accident, and his he hurt his head, I guess it was, and he was in bad shape with that. So we all suffered together there.
Okay. All right. And if you have questions too, after we hear from this guy here.
What's that?
I said, we're ready to, you're not the audience, buddy, here. You're on stage now. Okay, tell us how life started. How did life start for you? Where and when and
You mean when I was born?
yeah. He's going to be a challenge.
I was born in Taft, California.
And tell us where that is in case.
Anybody know where Taft is? Show me your hand. You know where Taft is? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now tell me. Okay, anybody else in the Taft? Oh, okay. You? No kidding. Well, how many of you have been in Fellows?
We're asking you now.
Fellows is
In
6.
case you don't remember, you're up here being interviewed.
I always get corrected.
Okay. Tell us.
Taft is 35 miles from Bakersfield, southwest, and Fellows is 6 miles north of Taft. And nobody that I have ever met and mentioned that to has ever heard of Fellows. And I understand that. It was a piece of ground, little town owned by an oil company, where my dad was a welding contractor for the oil fields. And where, if you know that area down there, you probably, if you've been there, you know that Jack Arbus carried canteens because it's so hot down there. What's that ringing? Is that my phone? No.
Yeah, better turn on that too.
And the last time I went down there, a few months ago, the house that I lived in and all my relatives, all the neighbors, all those houses were gone. The oil company just doesn't want the town anymore, I guess. And they dug holes and pushed the houses into them. It's really kind of a disappointing to see that. What else would you like to know?
Well, I think one of the most interesting things was when and where you started work.
Well,
Oh yeah, until you grew up.
yes, well, my mom and I had asthma down there in that hot country, and the doctors told my folks to move to a better climate location. And they chose, they looked around and chose Los Gatos. And they bought a grocery store, which was just a block away on the corner of Los Gatos Boulevard and Shannon Road.
It's intermission.
That's where the
So
orange,
it was the corner of what?
Los Gatos Boulevard and Shannon Road. That's
Yeah.
just a block over. And that's where the Orange Theory building is right now. Orange Theory it is. But it is a workout place. And the building that they're in now was building that had to be or was rebuilt after the original store building was torn down when Las Gatas Boulevard was widened from 2 lanes to 4. That building had to be torn down, and the one that's there now was rebuilt, and that was 1967.
And how old were you when you started working in this store?
We moved here when I was 10 years old, and of course started working in the store right away.
And one time you were in charge.
Yes, well, I don't know exactly how old I was, probably 12 or 13. My folks decided to take Sundays off. So they and my 2 brothers would take a drive off in the car, and my dad would leave me in charge of the store.
Can you imagine 12 years old in charge of the store?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Another thing you did when you were quite young is did some driving.
Yes.
You started on the lap of your father, I think.
When we were down with the Jackrabbits, my folks had relatives over in Bakersfield. And every time we drove over there, starting anyway, when I was 7 or 8, somewhere in there, maybe even younger, I couldn't reach the pedals, but my dad had me sitting in his lap, driving the car from Fellows to Bakersfield. And when we moved up here, my grandmother and grandfather also, on my mother's side, also lived in Fellows. And they would come up here and visit, but then my grandfather couldn't stop driving, and I started driving them around here for a while, but then they asked that I could come and pick them up, and my folks would take me to San Jose to the bus stop, and I would go to Fellows and drive them here. And then my grandparents went to, I forget where it was, Arizona or New Mexico for some kind of a medical therapy thing. And they drove down there, but my grandfather got ill. And so he asked my parents if I could come down and drive him home. And so they put me on a train in San Jose. And I was about 12, I think. And I went to, on the train to Los Angeles. And that was the scary part because I had a hard time finding the location of where I was supposed to catch the train to go to the next place, Arizona. But then I got there and drove him home.
Drove him, you get that? Drove them home when he was 12 years old. And that was how long a trip?
Well, it was from, I guess, Arizona or New Mexico. It had to be, I don't know, 5 hours or more.
Oh, I bet more than that, yeah. With no freeways. So, aren't you glad you weren't on the road in those days? With a 12 years old who started driving when he was 4 on his father's lap.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate to tell you all that.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about your challenge on the train.
Oh my goodness, you would bring that up. on the train between
He
Los
was
Angeles.
very shy. You can tell.
On the train, I had to go to the bathroom, but I couldn't find the bathroom on the train. And I was, I don't know, reluctant to ask anybody where it was. So I had to run like crazy in the first stop after that to the train station and made it back to the train to finish the ride.
Okay, what about what your work is today? He is still a working man.
I'm a financial advisor with Wells Fargo Advisors. My office is downtown San Jose. I've had 3 desks, I think it is, but several different firm names as they were acquired. The names changed on the front door.
And that's it? And how long are you going to be working?
29 more days.
But you don't work, do you work every day?
I work every day. On Tuesdays, I go to Rotary here. But I work from my home office on that day. John?
What do you do at work?
I help people invest their money in stocks and bonds.
Okay, do you have any other juicy news for us?
Juicy? No.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got a lot of stories I could tell, but I don't want to bore
Okay,
you.
well, you're not going to tell us?
Well, that's an interesting story too, I think. My
About
But
his
my-
family.
I knew about my family. As I mentioned, we moved here when I was 10, and I forget the month. My birthday is in February. My first wife, name was Irvy. her birthday is 6 months later. And she says I know that's the truth, but they moved here when she was 10 also. So just a few months later. And her dad had a car repair shop across from our store. And they lived in a motorhome behind their garage. And I didn't mention our residence was attached to our store. We just opened the door to go back and forth from the resident to the store. And so my folks and her folks got well acquainted, living just across the street from each other, and they had dinner together a lot, mostly in our house because of where they live. So we got acquainted when I was, and we were 10 years old. And she tells me now that we got acquainted, she and I, and she decided shortly after that she was going to marry me. Well, what do you know? It happened.
You know, one thing that you told me that tells a little bit about you was the mischief that you got to in grammar school.
Well,
I mean, this tells a lot about what he was like, you know.
I have to tell this, huh?
Yeah.
I had two, well, best friends. We did everything together. Did a lot of hunting and fishing and played ball together and were in clubs together. And the last day of school, this was on University Avenue School. Do you know where that is? Old Town, yes. And our classes, we were in different classrooms actually, but they were all on the second floor. And we planned that just before class was to be over, last day of school, 8th grade, that we would get excused to go to the bathroom, which we did. We met in the hallway and we set firecrackers in the heater things that were sitting down, along the hallway. My grandfather, when he always went to Texas, he always brought back a lot of firecrackers from Texas, and I had a whole bunch of them. So we set off those firecrackers. And Raymond Fisher, school over here named after him, I got to know him pretty well when I was in school. The three of us, after we lit the firecrackers, run off, of course. And Raymond Fisher made everybody else stay there an extra hour. Isn't that bad? Yeah.
That's very bad, very, very bad.
Everybody's shaking their head.
Yeah, you got away with it, setting off firecrackers. So
they didn't
it tells
catch
you
us.
a little bit about, what he was like. Anyway, yeah. Okay, well, any other juicy stories,
Well, I have 3 boys. They are all pretty local. One lives here in Los Gatos. He's the youngest and he's a physical therapist. And my middle son lives in San Jose and he's a technology person in his own business. And my oldest boy lives in St. Helena, works for Engeldick Winery. He's one of those people that when you go in for tasting, they set you at a table and he explains the wine and all. So I get to see them pretty often.
Okay, well, I guess we're open to questions for either.
Marlon, what got you started wearing hats?
What's that?
What got you started wearing hats?
My grandfather. He wore hats all the time, and then so did my dad. And so I just followed suit.
Huh? Okay, sure.
I went to San Jose State. I worked in the store until, well, my first job outside the store was in a Shell station on the next corner across from our store. Gas was 18 cents then.
So when you say your store, you're talking about the one that's on Shannon, that was on Shannon, North Shannon.
Yes,
So there was a Shell station across Shannon or
across Shannon.
Across Shannon. And the garage that your future wife was across Los Gatos Boulevard then?
Yes. Where that development is now. And what else was I going to say?
Jim has something here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot to go over what I did for a living. I forgot to go. So I'll just give you a quick rundown on that. I told you I majored in accounting. I went to work for Price Waterhouse. Remember them, I think. And they're a big accounting firm, auditing firm, and that. And I worked for them for 5 years, got my CPA. Then I went to Memorex. From Memorex, they moved me to marketing, and then I became a division general manager. And then from then on, I was CEO of smaller companies, and I did 5 of those. And that was it. I got moved to Atlanta once for 6 years. Had to sign an agreement that I would work for him for 3 years down there, wound up being the president of that club. And that was a company that was New York Stock Exchange level. So it was a pretty big one. And then we decided to split that one up somehow. And I got with some Wall Street guys and tried to get some money to buy a piece of it, and didn't work out. So I went with some guys down there, some engineers who were working on some stuff. And then we sold that one to a company in Seattle and came back. This is what my whole life was crazy like it. Just going through these little companies, sort of fun, I guess, but sometimes it's a little bit tough on the nerves.
One thing that Jim said that I wanted to ask you all, you said you were smoking Camel cigarettes? Oh, I thought you said you were. And I wondered how many of you out here smoked Luckies or Camels in those days. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're admitting now, huh?
I quit in 1976.
You know, I did too. I started when I was 16, just to get away with it, you know. Go up after school to the creamery. Remember the name Creamery? Oh, yes.
Question for Jim. Jim, did I hear that you're involved in the Terraces Foundation now? Yes.
The question was, is Jim involved in the Terraces Foundation?
Yes, I am involved with the foundation. I will be the new chairman when we have a turnover here, and I think it's like November 1st.
Marlon didn't say anything about his political, how he was involved in politics and those guys. And he was on the planning commission.
Well, come on, say something.
That's a story I like to tell, actually. I was on the planning commission for 12 years, I guess it was. And after I got, well, I was about to be timed off at the planning commission and decided to run for town council. And if any of you lived here back then, you probably got my flyers. And I was doing well in the beginning, but then I had a campaign manager, a friend. She was also worked for the town. And my ex-wife then, first wife, was also a campaign manager for some other people in San Jose and the county. And she said, "Why don't you let me run your campaign?" I said, "Okay." So I excuse myself from Marlene Rasmussen, who was going to be my campaign manager. And then she tells the story to me that she then, after that, was having some kind of get together with her children. And they said, Mom, since you're not running the campaign for Marlon, why don't you run for council? And she did. And guess what? When the campaign results came in, both her group and my group were at gosh, I can't remember the name of the place now. La Hacienda. And so when I learned that she won the race, I went over to where she was to congratulate her. And I gave her a hug. And somebody took a picture. And a few days later, that picture was on the front page of the local newspaper. Crazy times.
Anyone else who knows something that we don't up here? Okay, I guess that's all. If you want to come up and chat afterwards. But thank you all for coming. It's a good number of you.
Sorry for boring you.
Thank
I have to tell you, you did a very good job. Yeah, so did you. So, very interesting. Yeah, you had an interesting life. Yeah. What year? Every month Sunnyvale.
Yeah, we did. We lived in Sunnyvale. I think we moved there like 1970, maybe 1970.
We moved there in 75.
We moved there, yeah, to Saratoga in 74.
Are you the one that we ate with one time? We said